And let's jump into the Cincinnati game. We played at home.
Correct. We were there.
We were there on a wonderful Saturday evening.
And I should say Pineda was not there, right? Or he was not on the bench because he had received his yellow card suspension and he was not coaching the game. So do you know who was coaching the game? So Pineda was coached, he was he ran all the practices and stuff. He made the starting lineup, et cetera, but he was not on the touchline. He was not allowed to be on the touchline. Huh. So who would you expect to be the coach? And then I'll tell you that it wasn't him.
I don't even know who to expect. Go ahead, Mikey Dobbs.
Yeah. No.
Well, there's an assistant coach we had who have coached the team previously as a head coach.
Glass is who you'd expect. Right?
No, Glass is the guy who was terrible and gone.
Yeah,
Valentine.
Rob
Valentine.
Right. Yeah. So he was not the one who was in charge.
No, he went with De La Torre was the head coach for the game, and Valentine was assisting him.
Yeah.
So, so that means you can't blame Pineda for anything that happened in the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Rob Valentino should have been at the helm.
Maybe
that's what you're saying. I hear you.
He has a terrific record with Atlanta United, but yeah.
So we go into that game against the MLS leaders. We stick with the winning formula for the starting lineup. 0 tweaks was what you and I were talking about. And, I think this just shows some, basicness of Pineda's logic too, right? Of not trying to, I don't think you need to overthink it. If you have a winning lineup, yeah. But at the same time, you're going up against the best team in the league. There probably should be at least maybe one little adjustment that you make. That's like your little fine-tuned bet on what you're going to do to influence the team, and my opinion there is like, I would have rather seen Saba start over Mascara in that game. Of course, he got the goal, right? But at the end of the day, when you look at his overall portfolio play in that game, I'd have still rather had Saba. He may have had 2 goals in that game. So I felt like whether it was that move or something in the center mid, obviously behind, Moyamba having, Sosa in or something like that to mix it up. We didn't see either one of those. Those would have been like the 2 things I would have looked at. Dave, what would you have thought of as an adjustment against the, Shield leading MLS team in Cincinnati and the way that they're set up?
Well, the interesting thing is, so this time of year, you would say you should have some tweaks just for squad rotation to keep people fresh. Now, that being said, we got knocked out so early from the Leagues Cup. They had just come off a huge break. So maybe you don't need squad rotation. And then you could say, look, we played the same starting lineup. But even in that case, I would say it's hard to imagine how Seattle on the road, Nashville at home, Cincinnati at home are all the same, right? Like, you might think that there might be a reason to tweak something, and I don't know whether I would have tweaked it for those games, but I certainly would have tweaked it because I don't think he has the best starting lineup. But the bottom line is that Pineda, when we win, it's like almost like superstition. He will not change the team no matter what.
Yeah,
like unless there's an injury, I feel like he says if you win, it stays. You get to stay. So I literally felt like this is what I felt like. And here's the scenario, the crazy scenario, right? So we just bought a new designated player, Saba, right? And before he comes in, we win on the road at Seattle. We win at Nashville. So if we went on an 8-game winning streak or 10, let's say we went the rest of the year, let's just say a ridiculous scenario, without losing a match. That means Saba, as a designated player, is not going to get a start the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with saying, okay, if you win, then you stick with the same lineup. Like in general, sure, but that can't be a thing. And I don't know whether it's a thing for Pineda too, but it seems so often that when we win, it's the same team. Now, granted, you get the formation right, and there's 2 different schools of thought about coaching. Some is real about squad rotation, and some are like, I'll put my best starting 11 out there all the time, and we just compete for it. I'm a little in between, right? I like to have a starting lineup, in general and keep that. But even in that context, you still got to feel like a little bit of rotation to keep people fresh.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying in this case, because again, with the Leagues Cup, right, we were all fresh. But Muyumba, who literally just came over from France, played in the Leagues Cup, played in all those matches. By the time he gets to Cincinnati, he looks like he was slowing down a little bit. And you feel like maybe that could have helped, but
yeah, I didn't think he was slowing down. I felt like he slowed down towards the end of the game.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But not during the beginning. I felt like he still had it, but maybe his legs did get a little sluggish towards the end of that game.
Right.
So do we want to look at some of the goals in the Cincinnati game?
Yeah, so we start in the 11th minute, right? I mean, Silva, the new player, right? Zonde Silva. I mean, talk about a first touch on this goal. I mean, there's a ball served all the way across the field, and he brings it down like with the most delicate, amazing first touch.
Yeah.
Long distance.
Oh, no, this is actually we are gonna go to the first opportunity here. I think this is worth reviewing.
Oh, you want to look at the Almada free kick first?
Let's look at the Almada free kick first, because this was early on in the game, 7:43.
All right.
And you and I were in the stands. We're like, man, I was like, man, that's far away, and I know he can do it from there, but that looks like even further than what we've.
You said play, and I said play it to somebody as a play a ball in, and I said hell no, shoot, because it's freaking.
And I gave you the nod. I said, you're right, you're right.
Right.
And here's what we see here, and go ahead and play it, but. In the stadium, I just thought it whizzed. I thought it whizzed by the post by like a foot or so.
Nope.
From where we were sitting, it wasn't until watching the replay tonight
Oh my
that
goodness.
this thing hits the top corner.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and this next angle really shows it. I mean, what a beautiful kick that was. I mean, he totally beat the keeper. I mean,
the keeper had no chance.
Even Messi would have some respect for that. So anyway. Now we can move on to the.
I don't have much to say about that except for he good.
He good. Yeah.
Are we here? Is this what we're playing?
And he can do that consistently. That ball was a good 30 yards out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty.
And to have the keeper be completely beat on that is impressive.
Yeah. So the next show here is the goal by Silva, or not by Silva, by Mascara, which I think is his first professional goal, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dave?
It's probably the first goal of his life.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding out there, but it's certainly his first goal for Atlanta United.
No, it's like his first goal in 80 professional matches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He does not have a good track record,
not good.
and he clearly should have put his laces through this ball like he did. But if he can't score in this scenario, Silva just does a beautiful job, as you'll see here, Carmen, bringing this down, turning it and crossing it.
Under pressure too.
Under pressure, flicks off somebody's back heel. But pretty sweet first touch here from Silva as this comes down. Look at this. Whoop. Turn, and then crosses it, dinks up over somebody, and then Mascara smashes.
It was a little bit fortunate to fall for Mascara, but oh my God, it's Zonde Silva. What a first touch.
Yeah. Oh, do they show that
That
again?
was classy.
That was lovely.
Yeah, what a first touch. Because it comes right over the defender. This is
and
not.
to take it to the outside. No one would expect that.
Yeah. and the guy was still on him, and so he had the ability to keep it real close and make the cross. So well done.
Magic.
Yeah.
We're kind of cruising through the game here, and then
and they noticed he crossed it with his weaker left foot. Yeah. No problem.
That's able to
I love to see two-footed players. Please. Good Lord, bring us only two-footed players.
So then, if you move forward to the big hump there in the
big hump.
Yeah, right there. If you go back a little bit, yeah. So this is the goal by Acosta. And Dave, you want to go to your notes on what I had turned to you and said in the stadium here, as kind of you could see Moyamba was waning. The team was increasingly getting tired, and it felt like we were a little too late to make.
Well, I have to say, midway through the first half, our midfield starts to being run over. Right in this game, we were up 1-0, right? But midway through the first half, we starts to get run over, and we come out in the second half. Maybe we were okay for a few minutes in the second half, but by the time we get to 55th minute, 10 minutes into the second half, I have in my notes we're getting run over again. And the interesting thing about that is that, and we're going to get to it in a minute on the tactical board, but when we were talking about Seattle and Nashville with our two amazing wins coming out of Leagues Cup, right? Everybody's saying, oh, it's a change. Everything changed, right? And it's Muyumba and Josetu, right? And we're, fixed. We have all the attacking power and Zonde Silva and Saba coming off the bench and blah, blah, blah. And, we're fine in midfield. We fixed it because we got Muyumba. And I was saying that, it looks to me like Muyumba's an all-action guy. And it looked to me, I could understand why in Seattle, Nashville didn't really overrun us in midfield. And I don't really know the answer to that. Maybe Muyumba was so active, he kind of compensated for it. But I felt like it was coming. In the last podcast that we talked about it, I said, to me, it's not solid in the midfield. We're going to get run over in the midfield. And sure enough, Cincinnati comes in and they were running over us in the midfield.
Yeah.
Right. I remember in the last podcast, I talked about how in the Seattle game, one of their players dribbled 40 yards straight up the middle of the field. Nobody even came to challenge. He was dribbled 40 yards straight up the middle. Right. And I'll talk in a minute about how that happens. But, in this game, it looked like it was coming. We were talking to each other. We're like, we're about to give up a goal. And before you show this clip, I want to say 72nd minute in my notes, I have Dobbs turns to me and says, the defensive sub is going to be too late, right? We need the defensive sub now, and it's going to be too late.
73rd minute.
All right. 75th minute or 74th minute, they score. And right after they score in the dead ball off the goal, then we sub in the defensive sub, right?
Now,
So
the other thing I want to say, though, is I agree we started to get a little run over in the midfield, but I feel like the next two goals were other issues that we're about to point out here that are about marking your man.
Well, the interesting thing, I just want to say one thing more about that sub is so it ends up being Sejdic for Zonde Silva, right, for the defensive sub. So now obviously that's a midfield for a forward, so it makes us more defensive. But, Sejdic is not exactly bringing in the best defender. And you had a super defender on the bench in the midfield in Sosa.
Sosa?
No, he didn't bring him in. So I was like, anyway, so now you want me, or you can talk about what went wrong on this goal?
Go ahead here. Yeah, you can go ahead and talk about Josetu and his positioning here. So you can watch him. He's about 35 yards out in the center of the field.
So where we have the clip frozen now, Josetu is right in the smack in the middle of the field, about 10 yards out from our box, right outside, right in the middle outside of the circle. The semicircle at the top of the box, right? And this is what's happening. So we said it against Nashville, right? So Josetu in the Nashville game did an absolutely brilliant job, right? And we talked about this, that his job was, Hani Mukhtar always drops in deep. And his job was literally to wait for Hani Mukhtar to come out of the forward back into him and get on him. And he did. That's what he did. And I said, defensively, if Josetu is going to shine, he needs a very strict role like that. Right, because I don't think he's very good one-on-one, and I don't think he reads the game that well, and he's not that active. Right, so that doesn't really make for a great defensive midfielder. And so in this game and in the subsequent games, that we've had, Josetu every single time every time we lose the ball, he goes right back to the central back pair. Right, so in this case, it was Robinson and Abram. And he stands right in front of them. So you can see that's where he's coming from. He actually was so deep in front of them. He stepped up a couple of steps. But if you watch on this clip, look what he does.
Yeah. So the ball, I think, comes out wide to the right here. And watch again. Josetu kind of
he's going
backing in.
And now he does a little boogie step. Boogie step.
Oh. Ooh.
And if you notice Acosta, because of that, even though Muyumba and Josetu are back on that play, both, Acosta runs right in between the two of them, and nobody even comes close to picking him up. Right? He goes right in between the two. Right?
Yeah.
And you're positive that's not that was Almada doing the boogie, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah. I think we're wrong on that.
No, it shows that 220.
Okay,
It
okay.
shows that 220.
Yeah, okay.
Come on now.
Sorry. All right.
Armada was the one who actually was way up the field and gave up the previous play. But anyway, we're going to talk about a minute on the tactical board about what happens when you pair Rossetto with Muyamba with just the two of them in the midfield. Right. And I said Cincinnati had basically 3 in the midfield. So
the final goal here is what, like, if we're going to be, I mean, Pineda literally should be listening to the podcast at this point. I seriously, because I would really encourage you, if you guys are listening to this just on the audio, find the time to go look at this. We've been talking about our fullbacks pinching in and that being a coach thing or a thing that's not being coached out. Out of all the times we've talked about this, Carmen, how many times do you think we've spoken about the fullbacks pinching in on this podcast?
Oh gosh, a ton.
Yeah, it's like,
and we've seen goals because people.
Wait till you see this example here in the final.
You're gonna lose your mind.
Am I gonna lose my mind?
You're gonna lose your mind.
Let's see.
And yeah, so let's
ready?
Yeah, go ahead and play it, right? And we'll tell you to pause. So
Guzan sends it out. Now pause it here for a second. Right. So right now, Lennon, who is playing right back, he's literally almost on the touchline.
He's like 2 feet from the touchline.
Right. And he's back,
Sideline.
right? He's not up the field. He's way further back. He's way out wide. So he was there basically to try to open up and maybe get a ball from Guzan.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Almada does a really bad job of fighting for this ball. But anyway, he loses the ball, almost at midfield. So it shouldn't be that big of a problem. Nevertheless, just watch what Lennon does. And then maybe, Carmen, you can describe it. Having not seen it, you can describe it to the people.
I'm frightened. Okay.
Yeah. Almada loses, doesn't fight back for it at all.
Comes in, comes further in, and he loses
So knowing there's a guy out there, because he was just out there, he basically ran in to guard a person, even though we had how many people already there?
All the backs were back.
Everybody was back. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And left that guy completely wide open who crossed it. And that guy.
He comes in and then comes in again. Right? He's like, he came in far and then he was like, it's not far enough. I better keep coming. Right? Even though he got further away from him and he's nowhere close.
Like, who is he even guarding? Like, that's
nobody.
Nobody. Really go back and watch this.
Sorry.
Watch it again.
Sorry, guys. I got to watch it.
It's absolutely stunning.
So he's all the way. Okay.
So, we'll let the ball cycle out wide here. Okay. And as it goes here, hit pause.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Look where he is right now and where he came from. He was standing on the sideline. All he had to do is just mark his guy, right?
If he stayed out there, he had the guy.
Right.
Look, there's a guy right in front of him, correct? That's marking no one. So why does he need to be there?
It's got to be coached. Right? You cannot tell me that he did that just naturally, because naturally, if you're just terrible, whatever, you're looking for a guy and you go try to get the ball and you ignore it, whatever. Right. He just moves in and moves in again.
It's almost like basketball. I don't know if y'all play basketball, where they always say go to the basket first, guard the basket.
This is like allowing somebody to, give somebody a free alley-oop from outside the 3.
Well, I actually think that what this is from basketball. So Carmen being a big Duke basketball fan, having gone to Duke
or football fan this week.
That's right.
One of the things that they say, if you're the guard on the wing, don't leave the shooter, right? So if the point guard penetrates, right, the classic thing you do is you come in to help, and then all he does is kick it out to the guy who's, to the JJ Reddicks of the world, and he's never going to miss, right? And this is what's happening here, right? Don't leave the shooter. In this case, it's the crosser, right? Yeah. Don't leave the crosser. If you're the outside back, you're responsible for the guy out there who's going to serve the cross. Don't leave him. I'm like, even to the point where if we get beat straight through the middle, so be it. If they can go through Miles Robinson and Abram and Muyamba and Rossetto, who are all there, they deserve a goal. But they don't need the one guy who doesn't need help defensively on our team is
Miles
Robinson. So why is he going to hold his hand and leave a guy wide open?
Yeah.
Because once you do that, now you're relying on everybody to be awesome at marking their guy, right? And Wiley's trying to scramble back off his guy to take Vasquez, and he can't get there, and it's a tap in.